Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be talking about one of the most fascinating topics in Elder Scrolls lore. The Daedric Princes are so much more than your typical demons. They're some of the most complex and mysterious characters in the series. They are one of the things that really set the Elder Scrolls apart and help to elevate it beyond just being another generic fantasy setting. But what are the Daedra really? Where do they come from? What makes one a Daedric Prince? What is the nature of their realms of Oblivion? And why do they have such an interest in mortal affairs? Well, today we'll be answering all those questions and more before going on to look at each of the Daedric Princes in turn, examining their worship, artifacts, spheres, and realms. Welcome to the complete guide to the Daedric Princes of Oblivion. To truly understand the Daedra, we need to go back to the beginning. At the dawn of all things, there were two primal forces, Anu and Padme, who embodied the forces of order and chaos. The push and pull of these primordial forces gave rise to the original spirits, known as the Et Arda. While the details of this story differ across cultures, almost every religious tradition in Tamriel agrees on the broad strokes. Eventually, a group of Et Arda led by Lorkhan joined together to create the mortal plane, known as the Mundus. This group included spirits such as Akatosh, who would become the progenitors of the mortal races. Thus, these divine beings are known as the Aedra, which literally means our ancestors in the Elven language. But some of the Et Arda refused to participate in this grand experiment. Instead, they retreated into the realms of unformed chaos from which they forged their own planes of oblivion. These spirits became known as the Daedra, literally translated from Elvish as not our ancestors. It's often thought that the Aedra are gods while the Daedra are demons, that one is good while the other is evil. But the true distinction is one of ancestry. The Aedra are viewed by mortals as their venerable ancestors, while the Daedra are seen as alien, unknowable, and untrustworthy. But as we shall see, the truth is far more complicated than this distinction may lead you to believe. The most powerful of the Daedra are the Daedric Princes, also known by names such as the Demon Lords of Misrule and the Lords and Ladies of Oblivion. Historically, 16 major princes have been recognized, but this number has been disputed, and the true number could be far higher. But how can we define a Daedric prince? Well, the thing that sets Daedric princes above the lesser Daedra isn't power alone. It's what's known as their sphere. According to the demi-prince, Fanuit Hen, a Daedra becomes a prince when they have a broad and well-defined sphere of influence that enables clarity of purpose and focused expression of will. To be clear, this sphere isn't physical in nature. It's more of a philosophical or metaphysical concept, such as the madness of Sheogorath or the darkness of Nocturnal. There are many powerful Daedric beings, such as Dremora Lords or Demi-Princes, who cannot be counted among the Daedric Princes due to their lack of a sphere. Each Daedric Prince also rules over their own plane of oblivion, which is an extension of their self. These planes are often viewed as hells by mortals, and in some cases that is true. One look at Mehrunes Dagon's Deadlands or Molag Bal's Cold Harbour is enough to strike terror into the bravest heart. But much of the time, this stereotype is too simple, and the planes of oblivion contain wonders as well as horrors. Though many cultures have taboos or even outright prohibitions against Daedra worship, you will still find followers of the princes in all corners of Tamriel. The Daedra speak to our darkest fears and deepest desires, and as long as mortal hearts beat, they will always find an audience. Compared to the Aedra, who seem like distant gods, the Daedric princes are more accessible to mortals, and do not hesitate to interfere in worldly affairs. Each prince has a particular summoning day, a festival in their honor when they may choose to appear in front of their followers. The princes have been known to bestow tasks on supplicants at their shrines, even offering powerful artifacts as rewards for their service. These artifacts contain a portion of the prince's power, but they will not remain on Nirn indefinitely, and will eventually dematerialize to return to their masters. It's worth noting that the term prince can be used for Daedric lords of any gender. Daedra do not reproduce, and they don't have bodies in the traditional sense, so the notion of biological sex is largely meaningless to them. Still, most of them choose to manifest as a particular gender. While most princes are defined as clearly male or female, some, like Boethiah, are depicted with distinct masculine and feminine forms. Other princes, like Mephala, have a gender presentation that's something other than traditional male or female. Ultimately, the gender of the Daedric Princes says more about their spheres and the mortals who worship them than anything about the princes themselves. As they did not participate in the formation of the mortal plane, the Daedra transcend mortality. They cannot be killed, nor do they possess a soul. Instead, the Daedric equivalent of a soul is known as a vestige or animus. If the physical form of a Daedra is destroyed, their vestige will be sent back to the plane of Oblivion from which it came, where it will eventually reform. Thus, a Daedric prince can never be killed, only banished back to the waters of Oblivion. Each Daedric prince has a legion of lesser Daedra serving their will. The choice of a prince's servants often reflects the nature of their sphere. For example, Spider Daedra are often seen serving the web spinner Mephala, and golden saints and dark seducers represent the mania and dementia of the mad god Sheogorath. Of course, each prince also has mortal servants, some who come to them with open arms, and some who are enthralled against their will. In many cases, this service extends beyond death. Any vampire will find their soul forfeit to the cruel whims of Molag Bal, while a werewolf will spend their afterlife roaming the hunting grounds of Hircine. Now that we've discussed their origins and nature, we can begin to look at each of the Daedric princes individually, and consider their sphere, worship, artifacts, and plane of Oblivion. Finally, we will bring these threads together to see what conclusions can be drawn about these most enigmatic of beings. Azura. We will start with one of the more benevolent princes. But kindness should not be mistaken for weakness, because Azura is one of the most capable of all the Daedric princes. Known as the Queen of Twilight, Azura is the Daedric Prince of Dawn and Dusk. Her sphere encompasses mystery and magic, fate and prophecy, the spaces in between. To her worshippers, she is also known as the Mother Soul, and watches over them as a divine benefactor. But she also has a darker side, embodying vanity and egotism. It is said that she desires the love of her followers above all else, and she is fearsome when scorned. Azura is one of the chief deities of the Dunmer, who revere her alongside Boethiah and Mephala as one of the three good Daedra. Her presence looms large in their culture, not as a tyrant or tormentor, but as a figure of reverence, embodying the ideals of reflection and resilience. Yet her influence is not limited to the Dark Elves of Morrowind. Mystics across Tamriel call upon Azura when the future is clouded, or when they seek clarity in the face of despair. She is praised as the mother of all Khajiit, who revere her as she who sits at the precipice. In the traditions of elsewhere, she is the goddess of magic, beauty, and prophecy, and is credited with bestowing the Khajiit with their feline forms. The Khajiit believe that Azura oversees the Gates of the Crossing, a border realm between death and the afterlife through which all souls must pass. Her plane of Oblivion, Moonshadow, is said to be a realm of otherworldly beauty, almost too much for mortal minds to bear. It is a landscape of rivers and waterfalls, pink flowers and trees, and cities made of silver. Among her servants are the Winged Twilights, powerful Daedra who resemble harpies in appearance. At its heart is the Rose Palace, where Azura herself resides. Unlike many Daedric princes, Azura is welcoming to mortal travellers who make their way into her realm, and many are reluctant to leave its beauty. Azura's artifacts are a reflection of her sphere. The most famous of all is Azura's Star, a soul gem unlike any other, capable of being reused an infinite number of times. Yet some who have wielded it have found themselves seduced by its power. In the Fourth Age, the rogue mage Malyn Varen corrupted the star, turning it into a black soul gem, using it to make himself immortal. He was eventually cast down by the last Dragonborn, yet the question of whether or not the star was restored remains unknown. Though Azura is usually seen as one of the few morally good Daedra, she is not to be trifled with. In her fury against the tribunal, who broke their sacred oaths to her, she cursed all their people, turning their eyes red and their skin ashen. Even though the living gods have been cast down, and the Dunmer have returned to worship the Lady of Twilight, she has not forgotten this betrayal, and their cursed appearance endures as a reminder of her wrath. Boethiah. At first glance, Boethiah might seem like an undeniable force for evil. She certainly has an intimidating list of titles. The Prince of Plots, the Dark Warrior, the Prince of Cruelty and Torture, He who Destroys, and She who Erases. But Boethiah's sphere is a lot more complicated than simple murder. She's also the Prince of Deceit, Conspiracy, and Rebellion against Authority. Her worshippers are known to hold deadly gladiatorial combats in her honour, slaying each other in worship of their patron, for Boethiah prizes blood above all. But alongside warriors, she also attracts rebels of all stripes, and those who rage against authority will find an eager patron in the Prince of Plots. The Dark Elves of Morrowind consider Boethiah to be their original ancestor. The Chimera, the precursors of the Dunmer, originally left the Somerset Isles due to the machinations of the Prince of Plots. She appeared as an apparition before the prophet Veloth, inspiring him to lead his people to the east, to Morrowind. When the god Trinimac tried to stop the Chimera, Boethiah tricked him into her mouth, then excreted him as a corrupted version of his former self, Malacath, the Prince of Curses. But Boethiah also has followers among the other races of Tamriel. While Boethiah is usually depicted as male in Morrowind, they are sometimes portrayed as a Dunmer warrior queen, and are usually depicted as female in the western provinces. The Khajiit know her as Boethra, the warrior of East and West, hailing her as a guiding ancestor and the patron of warriors, rebels, and exiles. She has even been known to have Orcish followers, who defected to her worship after her humiliation of Trinimac. Her domain is the Plain of Attribution Share, a fearsome landscape of labyrinthine mazes and twisted towers. It has been described as an infernal plain, similar in nature to the infamous Deadlands of Mehrunes Dagon. Here, the prince has been known to host the Tournament of 10 Bloods, summoning one champion of each of the 10 races of Tamriel in a fight to the death, bestowing her favour upon the victor. Fittingly, the prince's artefacts are instruments of war and betrayal. Goldbrand, a blade forged by dragons at Boethiah's command, is a katana that burns with a violent intensity. The Ebony Mail, an almost impenetrable suit of armour, grants the wearer resistance to fire and magic, though at other times it has been known to help them poison their foes and move undetected. Together, these artifacts encapsulate the essence of the Prince of Plots: destruction as a means of transformation, betrayal as a pathway to freedom. Clavicus Vile. Much of the Daedric Prince's reputation for trickery and deceit can be attributed to Clavicus Vile, the Prince of Bargains. Known as the Master of Insidious Wishes and the Child God of the Morning Star, he offers mortals the allure of power and desire, but his gifts always come at a price. One who wishes to live forever may be cursed with undeath. One who wishes for a cure for their disease may be granted only a blade to plunge into their heart. If you choose to barter with the Prince of Bargains, you'd best do to choose your words carefully. Clavicus often presents himself as a jovial, horned figure, exuding charm and sophistication. Vile is rarely seen without his loyal companion Barbas, who typically takes the form of a loyal hound. Much of the prince's power resides in Barbas, and it's even been speculated that they're two halves of the same whole. Eternity bores the Prince of Bargains, and so he amuses himself by meddling in mortal lives. It is said that Clavicus is the most neutral of all the Daedric princes, caring little for matters of morality. Yet not all of Vile's actions are entirely self-serving. He has a code of sorts, and has been known to reward those who act in his name, and always keeps his end of the bargain, even if he loses. On occasion, mortals have been known to get the better of Clavicus. The hero Cyrus the Redguard won back his sister's soul in a wager with Clavicus, and the hero of Kvatch had the opportunity to snatch the legendary sword Umbra from right under the prince's nose. Yet such victories are rare, and mortals should think twice before accepting any offer from the prince. Vile's realm, the Fields of Regret, appears idyllic at first glance, yet hides a darker underbelly. It's a verdant, rolling landscape filled with majestic cities of glass, as well as stone spirals reaching high into the sky. But beneath this serene facade lies danger. For Vile is said to treat the souls of mortals like a cruel child playing with captured insects. This realm is populated by the Scarfin, horned, elf-like Daedra who serve as their prince's warriors and minions. He has also been known to employ stranger servants, such as a pair of Daedric guardians, one who always lies, and one who always tells the truth. Clavicus Vile's artifacts embody the cunning of their master. The Mask of Clavicus Vile, a helm that grants its wearer charm and charisma, epitomizes his habit of manipulation. He is also associated with Umbra, the sentient, soul-eating sword that consumes the identity of its wielder. But although the sword contains a fragment of Vile's power, it's now taken on a will of its own. It once attempted to entirely absorb the prince's power during an event known as the Umbriel Crisis. In the early 4th Era, Umbra dragged the floating city of Umbriel out of Clavicus's realm and onto Nirn, carving a path of destruction through Tamriel before it was eventually banished and returned to its master. Hermaeus Mora. There's an old saying that knowledge is power. And nobody understands this better than Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince of Forbidden Knowledge. One of the most powerful and enigmatic of all the Daedra, Hermaeus Mora appears as a writhing mass of tentacles, with an all-seeing eye at its centre. He's known by many names across cultures: the Demon of Knowledge, the Gardener of Men, and the Master of the Tides of Fate. His sphere encompasses all knowledge that mortals were never meant to hold: hidden truths, dangerous insights, and the threads of fate woven across past, present, and future. Mora is not a prince who seeks to rule or destroy. He seeks only to know. His hunger for knowledge is insatiable. Unlike many princes, his schemes are subtle, ensnaring mortals not with force, but with whispered words. To those who seek enlightenment, his offers are irresistible: forbidden tomes, ancient truths, the power to glimpse beyond the veil. But such gifts are never freely given. Mora's secrets come at a cost, one that often leaves his supplicants irrevocably changed. Hermaeus Mora claims he is one of the oldest princes, born from the discarded ideas thrown away at the dawn of creation. Since time immemorial, he has seduced mortals into his service with promises of forbidden knowledge. The ancient Nords knew him as the Woodland Man, and viewed him as a testing god who should not be trifled with. The Khajiit know him as the Tide King, who hoards all knowledge in a vast library beneath the sea. The Dunmer name him He Who Holds the Paper to the Light, but they do not fear him as other cultures do, believing that knowledge itself can only be as good or evil as the one who wields it. Across Tamriel, cultists pray to the demon of knowledge in secret. The scribes of Mora serve as his eyes and ears, hiding in the shadows, never interfering, but recording all they see to be written in their master's archives. No matter how closely guarded your secrets, none are truly safe from the scrying eye of Hermaeus Mora. His plane of oblivion, Apocrypha, is the epitome of his nature. An endless library filled with black-bound tomes, it is a place of both wonder and horror. The books hold truths beyond mortal comprehension, but they also trap the unwary. Ghostly figures wander its halls, eternally searching for knowledge they will never truly grasp. Apocrypha's shifting, ink-stained seas and grotesque guardians, such as seekers and lurkers, ensure that only the brave or foolish dare to navigate its depths. The black books serve as the doorways to Mora's realm, each tome containing some kind of eldritch knowledge. It is said that no one truly knows where they came from, or even when, for the books seem to defy the flow of time itself. Perhaps Mora's best-known artifact is the Ogma Infinium, also known as the Tome of Power. The book can imbue the reader with the knowledge of steel, shadow, or spirit, giving them demigod-like power that can break the minds of lesser mortals. As for what other treasures hide among the silent libraries of Apocrypha, we can only speculate, but sometimes we are safer not knowing the answer. Hircine. Hircine is the lord of the hunt, the master of beasts, and the father of werewolves. He often appears as a spear-wielding hunter with the head of a stag, but has known to take on other aspects that reflect various beasts of nature. His bear form embodies strength, his fox form embodies cunning, and his wolf aspect is the personification of speed. Hircine's sphere is the hunt, and he represents the law of nature, where only the strongest will survive. But despite the brutality of his sphere, he also adheres to a strict code. Those who are hunted must have a fighting chance, and there is no honor in killing helpless prey. Hircine does not seek dominion over mortals, or torment for its own sake. Instead, he calls the strong to prove themselves, and the cunning to survive. Though he does not actively seek reverence, Hircine is worshipped in all corners of Tamriel. The Reachfolk, for instance, revere Hircine as the Hunt Father, the one who gifted them the skills to survive in their unforgiving homeland. The Khajiit hail him as the Hungry Cat, and some believe that he was the father of the first of their kind. But other cultures view him with fear. To the Nords, he is an obstacle to Sovngarde, a predator who drags the unworthy into his hunting grounds. To the Skarl, he is the beast heralded by the Blood Moon prophecy, a demon who preys upon the mortal world. Hircine is perhaps most feared for his role as the father and patron of lycanthropes. In ancient times, the father of man-beasts bestowed his gift upon the first hunters who worshipped him. The power of lycanthropy allows mortals to transform into powerful bestial forms, from werewolves to werebears to even were-sharks. Though some cultures, such as the Reachmen, have embraced this power, most peoples of Tamriel view it as a curse, and throughout the continent, lycanthropes are shunned and hunted. Hircine's philosophy finds its perfect embodiment in the hunting grounds, his realm of oblivion. A primal wilderness of towering forests and rolling plains, they are populated by powerful beasts such as werewolves and unicorns, providing the ultimate staging ground for the eternal hunt. The souls of Hircine's followers are sent here after death. For the faithful, it is a paradise, an endless celebration of the cycle of the hunt. But for others, it is a cruel prison. The souls of lycanthropes are sent here, willingly or not, and mortals who are slain in the hunting grounds are doomed to remain there for all eternity. Hircine's artifacts mirror his ideals: strength, skill, and the spirit of the hunt. The Spear of Bitter Mercy is his signature weapon, said to have been forged by Mehrunes Dagon, but claimed by the Prince of the Hunt. It channels immense power, and only those bound by the laws of the hunt can wield it safely. The Saviour's Hide is perhaps the most famous of all Hircine's artifacts. One tale says it was crafted from the skin of a mortal who escaped the hunting grounds, tailored into armour that grants resistance to magic. Another claims it was sewn by Hircine himself from the pelt of a werewolf. Whatever its origins, the hide is the prince's blessing for those who prove their worth. The Ring of Hircine grants werewolves freedom from the moon's control, allowing them to embrace or suppress their bestial nature at will. To mortals, it can even bestow the gift, or curse, of lycanthropy. Yet Hircine's favour is never unconditional, for those who take the ring without earning it will find its power turn to chaos, with transformations striking at random. Malacath. Malacath is known by many names: the god of curses, lies and vengeance, the lord of monsters, and the father of the orcs. His sphere includes the spurned and ostracized, broken oaths and false promises, and vengeance against betrayal. Unlike the other Daedric lords, Malacath was once one of the divines, Trinimac, the golden champion of Auriel. But he was tricked by Boethiah and corrupted into a tragic mockery of his former self, reborn as a cursed and vengeful Daedric spirit. His followers were cursed along with him, becoming the first of the orcs, and he continues to watch over them as a jealous, wrathful protector. The orcs believe in all of the gods, but they worship only Malacath. They hail him as Moloch, the orc father, and wage battle in his honour. They follow a philosophy known as the Code of Malacath, which puts strength, honour, and vengeance above all. Malacath is also the father of the Goblin Ken, ogres, goblins and trolls, who have been known to raise primitive shrines and statues in his worship. Though Malacath is best known as the patron of these races, he still attracts a few followers from the other cultures of Tamriel. In Nord mythology, he is represented by two figures: Moloch, a demon who tests warriors through combat, and Orki, or Old Knocker, a death god who has tormented the Nord since the days of Atmora. The Dunmer view him as a member of the House of Troubles, the four evil Daedra, yet some heretics still devote their lives to him in hidden shrines. Wherever vengeance burns in the hearts of mortals, Malacath can surely find a devoted servant. Little is known of Malacath's realm, the Ash Pit, for few mortals have ever laid eyes upon it. It is said to be made up of dust, palaces of smoke, and creatures made from vapours. Mortals who wish to survive in the plane will need magical aid to even breathe the air. Malacath rules this realm from his fortress in the Ashen Forge, where the souls of orcs are said to travel after death. Here, every orc is a chief, every chief has 1,000 wives, and every wife 1,000 slaves to cater to their every need. We have few accounts of mortals who visited the Ash Pit and returned to tell the tale. In the early 4th era, Prince Atribus and the Dunmer Sul were called to the realm, where they found a garden of vines beneath a sky full of pale spheres. This garden seemed to have some sentimental value for Malacath, who described it as an echo of something that once was. Malacath's artifacts are fitting for the belligerent nature of his realm and sphere. Chief among them is Volendrung, the Hammer of Might, an ancient artifact created by the Dwemer Rurken clan long ago. The chief of the clan once tossed the hammer across Tamriel, promising to settle where it landed. The desert where it crashed became known as Volenfell, but the people of Tamriel know it today by another name, Hammerfell. After the disappearance of the Dwemer, the hammer passed into the possession of Malacath, and it has since become his symbol, granted to his greatest champions to help them smite their foes. Mehrunes Dagon. When you hear the word Daedra, your mind may conjure an image of marauding demons, hell-bent on bringing the mortal world to ruin. and this depiction is largely down to the actions of one prince, Mehrunes Dagon, the Lord of Destruction. More than any other Daedric prince, he desires to conquer the plane of Tamriel for his own, most notably during the Oblivion crisis, when his cultists opened Oblivion gates across the continent. But beyond destruction, his sphere also encompasses ambition, change, and revolution. Dagon's violence is not without purpose. After all, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. Or, in Dagon's case, burning a few cities. Dagon's appearance is terrifying to behold, a giant, four-armed demon with each hand wielding a different instrument of war. Many cultures blame natural disasters such as earthquakes on his malign influence. Despite his reputation as a cruel and violent deity, he still attracts followers from all cultures of Tamriel. The most famous of all of Dagon's cults was the Mythic Dawn, led by Mankar Cameron, who assassinated Uriel VII and all of his heirs, ushering in the Oblivion crisis. In Morrowind, the Dunmer fear him as the Lord of Blood and Flame, and heretics worship him in secret shrines below ancient Daedric ruins. To the Khajiit of elsewhere, he is Mehrunes, the Demon Cat, one of the adversarial spirits who tests those who walk the path. Dagon has followers even in the depths of Blackmarsh, where the Sul San sacrifice the living to the one they call the true egg-child of Sithis. Still, Dagon is among the most reviled of all the princes, and those who make dealings with him may find themselves hunted for such dangerous heresy. The origins of Mehrunes Dagon are wrapped in mystery, and most of what we know comes from the writings of Mankar Cameron. It is said that long ago, the Magna Gi secretly created Mehrunes Dagon in the bowels of Lig, a parallel version of Tamriel. Dagon was created to be a prince of good, and it was intended that his sphere would be hope. But he rose up in rebellion and destroyed the towers that held up the realm of Lig, casting it down into ruin. The Mythic Dawn believed that, like Lig, Tamriel was a prison, that it had once been a plane of oblivion, with Lorkhan as its prince, before turning into the mortal plane. So in their view, Dagon's invasion was not a hostile takeover, but simply an attempt to return Tamriel to its rightful state. Nevertheless, an attempt which would demand suffering beyond comprehension. For many, Dagon's realm of the Deadlands is synonymous with Oblivion itself. It's truly a hellish landscape. Seas of lava, towering volcanoes, a sky choked with sulfur and ash. The Deadlands are populated by towering structures, characterized by jagged, violent architecture, some of which hold sigil stones, ancient artifacts capable of holding open portals between Nirn and Oblivion. Dagon's realm is populated by lesser Daedra of all kinds, but the most feared are the Dremora clans, who serve as the Lord of Destruction's elite soldiers. Mortals who fall into their clutches may find themselves tortured for sport, with their mangled bodies turned into grotesque flesh sculptures. As befits the Prince of Destruction, Dagon's artifacts are tools of devastating potential. Most feared of all is Mehrunes' Razor, also known as the Bane of the Righteous and the Dagger of the Final Wounds. While small, this blade is among the most powerful of all Daedric artifacts. Even the smallest cut is capable of killing any victim instantly, with Dagon claiming the soul of the slain. But surely the most enigmatic of all Dagon's artifacts is the Mysterium Xarxes, the magical tome worshipped by the Mythic Dawn. Said to be written by Mehrunes Dagon himself in the deserts of rusts and wounds, even handling the book is gravely dangerous to all but the most powerful mages. The book's power was immense, even capable of forging new pocket realms of oblivion, as seen in Mankar Cameron's creation of the paradise of Gaia Alata. However, the book was destroyed during a ritual carried out by Martin Septim to open a portal to paradise, with just a single torn page surviving the centuries. Mephala. Mephala is known as the web spinner, and her sphere encompasses sex, lies, and murder. Often associated with the spider, she is depicted as an androgynous figure and is known by many names: the Plot Weaver, the Lady of Whispers, and the Teacher of the Secret Arts. Mephala intervenes in the affairs of mortals for her own designs. She considers their world a great tapestry. Pull the right thread, and everything will begin to unravel. As the Prince of Lies and Murder, Mephala is often revered by assassins. The Morag Tong, Morrowind's Guild of Assassins, claims to murder in her honour. The Cult of the Spider is a secret society dedicated to her worship, and they use lies and seduction as tools to spread their influence. Still, despite the darkness of her sphere, she is revered by the Dunmer as one of the 3 good Daedra. During the exodus of their people, she taught them to kill their enemies with secret murder, helping to ensure their survival. She was also seen as the anticipation of the living god Vivek. The Dunmer believe that all aspects of her sphere, sex, lies, and murder, contain both subtle and violent elements. A person can lie to serve themselves or to protect others. A killing can be done in defense or just as indiscriminate murder. To the Dunmer, Mephala is a contradictory figure who embodies all dimensions of her sphere and is thus worthy of reverence as one of the good Daedra. Mephala's plane of oblivion is the Spiral Skein, a disturbing realm that resembles a sprawling, subterranean cave system filled with all manner of eldritch creatures. The only light here derives from glowing mushrooms or crimson crystals which jut out from the rock. It is divided into 8 different strands, each said to resemble a different sin. At its heart, Mephala rules from their pillar palace, whose true name is too terrible to be spoken aloud. The spider Daedra are her most infamous servants, but all manner of arthropoid beasts can be found here, weaving the threads of the web spinner. Mephala is associated with artifacts that reflect their sphere of murder and deceit. Most feared of all is the Ebony Blade, also known as the Vampire Blade, a katana which is able to absorb the life force of those it slays. It is particularly infamous among the Khajiit, who call it the Black Edge of Shadow, or the Killing Word of the Spider. She was also the original owner of the Ring of Khajiit, which allowed its wearer to turn invisible, but it was stolen from her long ago by Regine, the Khajiit thief god, and it later became an artifact of Meridia. Overall, Mephala is one of the more complex Daedric princes, and one of the most easily misunderstood. Ultimately, she's a being that's beyond good or evil, but she does everything with purpose, spinning the threads of the great web to some unknown ends. Meridia. A new hand touches the beacon. Meridia is the Prince of Life and Light, and is hailed as one of the more benevolent Daedra. Known by titles such as the Radiant One, the Harbinger of Dawn, and the Lady of Infinite Energies, her sphere is associated with light, the sun, and the energies of all living things. Long ago, she was known as Merid Nunda, the daughter of the sun god Magnus. She wasn't originally a Daedra at all, but one of the Magnagi, the divine beings that fled Nirn soon after its creation. But she began to consort with the Daedra, and eventually she fell from grace. She used the light of Magnus to form her own plane of oblivion, becoming the Daedric Prince Meridia. Though she has a radiant veneer, beneath it is a ruthless streak. Meridia's hatred for the undead is legendary, and her worshippers are tasked with eradicating the false life she finds abhorrent. She seeks to cleanse the world of these impurities with divine flame. Those who serve her in this righteous crusade are richly rewarded, and her zeal against necromancy and undeath has earned her a reputation as a force for good. Still, her vision of purity is uncompromising. The Lady of Light will make no distinction between those who embrace undeath willingly or those who have it thrust upon them. They will all burn, just the same. Her dominion over life and energy often brings her into conflict with other princes of Oblivion, most notably Molag Bal, the Prince of Domination. But even among mortals, she is not universally adored. Those who resent her authoritarian nature have called her the Glister Witch, and some deride her as the Lady of Greed for collecting mortals to serve her ambitions. Meridia's realm of Oblivion, the Coloured Rooms, is a domain of life and light. A kaleidoscopic landscape of vibrant energies, the realm stands as a stark contrast to the bleak and chaotic plains of other Daedric princes. It is a haven for her purified followers and the Aurorans, golden-armoured Daedra who serve as her enforcers. It is thought that the realm's brilliance derives from the light of Magnus which was used in its formation, making it unique among all the planes of Oblivion. Throughout history, Meridia has been associated with various powerful artifacts. Dawnbreaker is a sword forged in holy light, made with the sole purpose of smiting the undead. She has rewarded her followers with the Ring of Khajiit, which makes the wearer silent and invisible. It is said that the Khajiit thief god Rajin used it to steal a tattoo from the neck of Empress Kintyra, and even to snatch the Ogma Infinium from under Hermaeus Mora's gaze. But perhaps her most notorious artifact is Meridia's beacon, which she uses to communicate with her followers. It's whispered she is able to influence and even control those who hold it, reminding us that she can be dangerous as well as benevolent. Molag Bal. If there is one Daedric prince who can be said to be irredeemably evil, then it is surely Molag Bal, the Lord of Domination. He has more titles than perhaps any other Daedric prince: the Defiler, the Dreadlord, the Harvester of Souls, and some that are too dark to mention here. His sphere encompasses corruption, domination, and enslavement, and his ultimate ambition is to harvest the souls of all mortal kind to serve as his thralls. He does this for his own amusement, taking pleasure in the suffering of his victims, inflicting torture and humiliation that's beyond comprehension. He's also notorious as the progenitor of vampires, and across Tamriel, those afflicted by the curse build secret shadows to their dark father, or curse his name. Molag Bal's form is terrifying for any mortal to behold, and is the definition of demonic. Horns sprouting from a reptilian head, massive clawed hands, legs like those of a goat. One might wonder, why would anyone worship such a malevolent being? But the answer is that few come into Molag Bal's service by choice. He is the Prince of Domination after all. The most notable worshippers of Molag Bal are vampire clans, who build hidden shrines to their master across Tamriel. But not all vampires venerate him. Some hate him for the affliction he has created, and the first vampire, Lemay Bal, swore vengeance against the Defiler for the cruel fate he inflicted upon her. Molag Bal's realm of Cold Harbour is among the darkest of all the planes of Oblivion. This realm is a twisted, corrupted mirror of Tamriel, a physical manifestation of terror and cruelty. It's a barren waste of unnatural cold, a craggy landscape broken up with strange blue pools beneath a sky of purple flame. Its dungeons are populated by husks of mortals called the Soul Shriven, those whose souls were claimed by the Dread Prince, condemned to be tortured for all eternity. As part of his lust for conquest, Molag Bal has at times attempted to drag other realms into his plane of Cold Harbour, most notably during his invasion of Tamriel in the Second Era, an event that has been remembered as the Plane Meld. Using vast Daedric constructs known as Dark Anchors, the Dark Lord attempted to drag the mortal plane into his realm of Oblivion. It was only through the intervention of the hero known as the Vestige that this mad ambition was stopped, but the Prince of Domination's hunger for enslaving mortal souls will never truly be vanquished. Molag Bal's artifacts mirror his nature as a prince of darkness and depravity. The Mace of Molag Bal, also known as the Vampire's Mace, is his most notorious gift. A twisted hunk of jagged metal, the mace is known to trap the souls or drain the power of those it strikes. It is said to be the masterwork of a great orcish smith who was tricked by Molag Bal and imprisoned in the depths of Cold Harbour, where he was forced to forge weapons in the service of the Dread Lord. He is also associated with the Mortem Vivicus, a magical artifact of great power. It is said that the Mortem Vivicus contained the power of thousands of trapped souls, holding enough energy to level a continent if it were ever unleashed. The gifts of Molag Bal are poison chalices. If you choose to accept them, you may gain great power, but it will be at the expense of your soul, and you risk spending the rest of eternity as a thrall at the mercy of the Harvester of Souls. Namira. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the foulest of them all? Well, probably Namira, the mistress of hunger and decay. She is often associated with vermin, filth, and all manner of things that invoke revulsion in mortal hearts. But Namira is more than just a Daedric Prince of the unclean. She's one of the eldest of all the Daedra, a primordial spirit of the void, the dark behind the world. Ultimately, she reflects our greatest fear, that all things, no matter how grand, will decay into ruin. She's the whisper in the dark, reminding us that even the brightest lights will one day be extinguished. Namira attracts those on the fringes of society, those who've been cast out or ostracized. Some turn to her out of desperation, others seeking a way to spite those who've wronged them. In the cities, she finds a following among beggars and vagrants, those who are looked down on and rejected by the rest of society. Her more extreme devotees form colonies in the dark, hidden corners of the continent. Ancient ruins or squalid caves, places beyond the reach of the light. They've even been known to engage in ritual cannibalism in worship of the Dark Mistress. Though most cultures reject her worship, a few choose to revere the Lady of Decay. The Khajiit fear her as the Great Darkness, the embodiment of the void, and they make offerings to her to placate her wrath. The Reachmen know her as the Spirit Queen and the Goddess of Death. For them, she represents darkness, death, and rebirth. Among the Reachmen, the Crow Wife clan worships her by offering their own children up in mortal sacrifice. The sacrifice will be bound to the ever-oozing altar, where its heart will be cut out and offered up to the dark goddess. Namira's realm of oblivion is equally as horrific as her sphere of worship. The scuttling void, known to the Khajiit as the dark behind the world, is an endless primordial void filled with eldritch horrors beyond comprehension. Its sky appears as a deep violet, filled with floating islands and mysterious shapes. The void is populated by her servants, including the Dro Mathra, corrupted Khajiiti spirits who are in the prince's thrall. In past ages, mortals have been known to cross through a portal known as the Maw of Lorcaj, but the realm was deemed so dangerous that in the Third Era, the Elder Council attempted to cut off access to it altogether. Namira's artifacts are just as repulsive as their creator. The most notorious is the Ring of Namira, a dark gift bestowed upon her most loyal followers. In some incarnations, the ring has been known to reflect damage back against an attacker, while other versions have been known to increase the wearer's stamina, even healing them when they cannibalize the dead. But perhaps the most powerful of Namira's artifacts is lesser known, the Dark Heart, a malevolent imitation of the Heart of Lorcan. It is said to be a piece of the primordial void that has manifested on Nirn, corrupting everything it touches. Souls who are absorbed by the Dark Heart will be consumed altogether, forever banished to the nothingness between worlds. Nocturnal. Before there was light, there was darkness. No matter where the light travels, it will find darkness waiting for it. And no matter how long the light burns, all must eventually return to the dark. This philosophy underpins the worship of Nocturnal, perhaps the eldest of all the Daedric Princes, whose sphere is night, darkness, and the unknown. She is known across Tamriel by many names, the Mistress of Shadows, and the Shadow Thief. Appearing as a cloaked, cowled woman, and depicted alongside crows and ravens, she is often seen as the patron of thieves, and her followers include the Nightingales, a secret order of thieves who guard her hidden temple at the Twilight Sepulchre. Her worship is most prevalent among the Khajiit, who know her as Noctra and pray for her to bring luck and darkness to hide in. But she is also venerated by stranger, more obscure cults. The Witch Mothers are a secret coven who worship Nocturnal and carry out her bidding. Her worshippers practice a mysterious art known as shadow magic, in the understanding that shadow is not simply the absence of light, but its own force of nature entirely. Have you ever seen something in the darkness out of the corner of your eye, only to turn and find there was nothing there at all? Then perhaps you've already caught a glimpse of Nocturnal's realm, which lies hidden in the darkness. Her plane of oblivion is called the Evergloam, a realm of eternal twilight, where twisted trees and ruined towers cast shadows over a broken landscape. It is said that the shadows here seem to come alive, and no two mortals see the shadows exactly the same. Though to many, it may appear as a realm of nightmares, to her faithful, its beauty will be mesmerizing. The souls of Nocturnal's faithful will spend their afterlives here as shadow creatures, embracing the dark, but banished by the light. Few mortals have ever laid eyes on the Evergloam, but it is said there is a gateway to it through the Ebon Mere, hidden deep beneath the Twilight Sepulchre in Skyrim. It is said that the souls of dead nightingales are able to move through the portal, walking with the shadows and bringing luck to thieves. Like their creator, Nocturnal's artifacts are powerful, ancient, and mysterious. Perhaps the most famous of all is the Skeleton Key, which has been an object of desire for thieves since time immemorial. The key is able to open any lock, but its power goes far beyond that, and is even able to open portals between worlds. Her second notable artifact is the Grey Cowl, most famously worn by the legendary thief known as the Grey Fox. The cowl was stolen from her by Daraloth, the Grand Master of the Thieves' Guild, but Nocturnal bestowed upon it a curse. Whosoever wears it shall be lost in the shadows. His true nature shall be unknown to all who meet him. His identity shall be struck from all records and histories. Memory will hide in the shadows, refusing to record the name of the owner to any who meets him. He shall be known by the cowl, and only by the cowl. Although the curse was broken through the power of an Elder Scroll in the late Third Era, the cowl remains legendary among the thieves of Tamriel to this day. Peryite. Our next prince has something of an unusual sphere of influence. Peryite is the Prince of Plagues, Tasks, and Natural Order. He is usually depicted in the form of a dragon, and is known by many titles: the Taskmaster, the Blighted Lord, and even the Lord of Abundant Pus and Bountiful Vomit. At first, the elements of his sphere might seem random, almost ill-defined. What do plague and pestilence have to do with tasks and order? But for Peryite, order is all about enforcing the cycle of life and death, ensuring the natural rhythm of death and decay. So plague is just one means to an end. As the Prince of Natural Order, Peryite's primary focus lies in maintaining the balance of Oblivion itself, a largely thankless task which avoids the notice of most mortals. Peryite's followers come from all walks of life, ranging from clandestine worshippers to more grotesque cults. Members of the Cult of the Natural Order view Peryite's philosophy through a lens of pragmatism, believing that the world's imperfections must be cleansed by pestilence to ensure the natural balance. These followers understand Peryite not as a destructive force, but as the embodiment of order in a world of chaos. In contrast, his more extreme cults glorify disease itself, embracing infection as a sacred gift. These devotees revel in their afflictions, spreading illness to others as an act of worship. Their fervour often alienates them from society, yet, to these worshippers, every malady is a divine blessing from the Taskmaster himself. As Kesh the Clean, the leader of Peryite's cult in Skyrim, once explained, "He is the pus in the wound. Oh, proper ones curl their nose, but it's pus that drinks foul humours and restores the blood. I worship Peryite, yes, because sometimes the world can only be cleansed by disease." Out of all the Daedric Princes, we probably know the least about Peryite's plane of Oblivion. His realm of the pits is almost completely inaccessible to mortals, and even the most powerful Daedrologists have been unable to infiltrate it. The only mortal we know of who's been allowed entry was the hero of Kvatch, who helped retrieve the souls of 5 worshippers who'd become trapped in their master's realm. Thus, we can only speculate as to what lurks in the pits, and what dark pestilence might be unleashed if their gates are ever thrown open. Only one of Peryite's artifacts has made much impact on Tamriel's history: Spellbreaker. This enchanted shield was said to have been created by the Dwemer king Rurkan long ages ago. Spellbreaker not only protects its wielder from physical harm, but also from magical attacks, and through the ages it has been shown as being capable of reflecting spells, dispelling curses, or silencing mages. It is said that the shield still searches for its original owner, and will not remain the property of anyone else for long. Sanguine. If you're planning to be on Tamriel for a good time, not a long time, then perhaps Sanguine is the Daedric Prince for you. He is renowned as the Lord of Revelry, Lust, and Perversity, and leads his followers in wild binges of indulgence. He's generally regarded as one of the less harmful Daedric Princes, and enjoys meddling in mortal affairs. But beneath the hedonistic exterior, he also has a more insidious side. He was known to the Ayleids as blood-made pleasure, the one who indulges even the most wicked desires. Sanguine typically appears as a crimson-skinned Daedra, often with a flagon in hand. He's one of the most widely worshipped of all the princes, with his appeal spanning across cultures. In High Rock, the winter celebration of Saturalia was originally in praise of the god of debauchery. In the heartland of Cyrodiil, worshippers offer up brandy in his honour, and participate in mass debauchery during the festival of Carnival. Sanguine has even found worshippers among the emperors, and it is said that in Remen's time he even had his own quarters in the White Gold Tower. Still, Sanguine worship isn't all fun and games. In Elsewhere, the Khajiit know him as Sanguine, the Blood Cat, who entices mortals to seek out both blood and pleasure. And in ancient times, the Ayleids indulged in horrors in Sanguine's name, turning their Nedic thralls into flesh sculptures and art tortures, finding pleasure through the pain of others. Sanguine's domain is known as the Myriad Realms of Revelry, made up of thousands and thousands of pocket realms, each tailored to suit a particular indulgence. Compared to most Daedric princes, Sanguine doesn't rule very closely over his realm, and spends much of his time partaking in the revelries of others. Though it's certainly less intimidating than planes such as Cold Harbour or the Deadlands, mortal visitors should still beware, for those who taste the pleasures of the realms of revelry may find themselves unable to leave. Sanguine's artifacts reflect his nature as the Prince of Pleasure, and are capable of leaving confusion and chaos in their wake. The item most closely associated with him is the Sanguine Rose, a staff capable of summoning lesser Daedra. But it comes with a catch. The Daedra will attack anything in sight, including the one who summoned it. It may seem like a cruel joke, something that would also be fitting for our next Daedric Prince. Sheogorath. Sheogorath is often seen as a jester-like figure, a trickster god who has a fondness for pranks and an obsession with cheese. But this depiction is far too simple, and risks underestimating the power and danger of the mad god. For behind his gentlemanly demeanour, Sheogorath is one of the most potent and dangerous of all the Lords of Oblivion. He's known by many names: the Lord of Madness, the Trickster, Lord of the Never There. It has been said he is the Sithish-shaped hole of the world, brought into being when Lorkhan's divine heart was torn away. Mortals who lose their sanity are said to be touched by Sheogorath, and those who enter his realm risk losing their minds entirely. But some say that creativity is the mirror of madness, and so Sheogorath is also the patron of artists of all kinds. One legend even claims that Sheogorath was the first to create music, murdering a mortal and making instruments of their bones to mimic the songs of birds. Rich or poor, man or mer, madness does not discriminate, and Sheogorath is worshipped and feared by mortals of all cultures. The Khajiit call him the Skooma Cat and believe he is a testing god who makes one question their own thoughts, beliefs, and actions. The Dunmer know him as the fourth corner of the House of Troubles, and his worship is punishable by death by the temple. It is said, in a moment of boredom, he flung the moon of Bar Dao through the void towards the island of Vardenfell. Though the moon's descent was halted by the living god Vivek, it would eventually crash to the ground in the Fourth Era, a testament to the mad god's destructive potential. Of all the realms of Oblivion, we have probably seen the most of the Shivering Isles. But seeing isn't always understanding, especially in Sheogorath's chaotic realm. The realm is divided into two opposing halves, said to represent the two faces of madness, the bright, vibrant land of mania, and the dark, twisted landscape of dementia. The Isles have their own unique set of flora and fauna, from towering mushroom forests to the strange amphibious grummites. The mad god rules from his palace in the city of New Sheoth, presiding over the court of madness, who vie for their master's favour. He commands many servants, from mortals who have lost their minds, to the golden saints and dark seducers who guard his palace. Those who enter the Isles must first pass through the Fringe, a border realm where new arrivals must stay until madness has taken hold. Those who wish to escape the Fringe must overcome the Gatekeeper, a giant flesh Atronach which guards the entry to the Isles. Like their creator, Sheogorath's artifacts are enigmatic, their functions seemingly nonsensical. But don't let their strangeness fool you, they are as potent as any other princes. The Wabberjack is the most famous, a staff imbued with great power, instantly recognizable by the maddened faces engraved into its head. The staff has the power to warp reality itself, transforming its target into a completely random creature. This can be a blessing or a curse to the wielder, turning an enemy into anything from a harmless chicken to a ravening Daedroth. Another artifact, the Fork of Horripilation, appears to be nothing more than a mundane piece of cutlery, yet is capable of sapping all magic around it. Finally, the Staff of Sheogorath is wielded by the mad god himself. Though it appears to be little more than a walking stick, it is infused with the power of the Shivering Isles, and can paralyze all enemies within a large radius. But Sheogorath was not always the Prince of Madness. Long ago, he was known by another name entirely, Jyggalag, the Prince of Logic and Order. Appearing as a towering figure in silver armor, his demeanor was stern and authoritative, befitting his sphere. He made it his mission to bring order to the chaos of Oblivion, and his realm spread far and wide. His plane of Oblivion was home to a great library, which rivaled even Hermaeus Mora's. He would use this vast knowledge to try and predict every event that would ever occur in reality. His will was enforced by the Knights of Order, mindless Daedric soldiers encased in crystalline armor. Soon, his realm of cold, clinical order threatened to eclipse the power of the other Daedric princes, and perhaps even overtake them altogether. So they banded together to cast him down, condemning him to become the personification of the thing he hated most, madness. From that point on, Jyggalag was forgotten, and the mad god Sheogorath was born. Laughing, he set fire to the grand library of Jyggalag, and from the Sea of Perfect Order was born the chaos of the Shivering Isles. But this transformation did not destroy Jyggalag entirely, for somewhere deep within Sheogorath, a remnant of the Prince of Order still lived. And once every era, he would re-emerge during an event known as the Grey March. The forces of order would march on the Shivering Isles, destroying them utterly, before Jyggalag would transform back into Sheogorath once more. This cycle of destruction was intended to keep the power of the prince in check. However, in the late Third Era, the cycle of the Grey March was broken for good. The hero of Kvatch took up the mantle of Sheogorath, allowing the original Sheogorath to revert back into Jyggalag. For the first time, the two princes are now separate entities. We don't know exactly what became of Jyggalag after the last Grey March, but it's safe to assume he's out there somewhere in Oblivion, biding his time, rebuilding his lost realm of perfect order. Vaermina. The Daedric Princes have always vied for their place in mortal minds, but only one rules the realm of the subconscious. Vaermina is known as the Dream Weaver, the Mistress of Nightmares, and the Dark Lady, and her sphere encompasses dreams, nightmares, and omens. It is said that when they sleep, all mortals come under her sway, making her one of the most pervasive of all Daedric Princes. All mortals must sleep, and so the Weaver of Dreams is feared and worshipped across all cultures. The Khajiit believe she was a child of Padme, born out of her mother's fear of losing her children. Azura slew Vaermina in the underworld, meaning she can now only reside in the realm of dreams. Vaermina has cultists across all of Tamriel, many of whom perform dark rituals in her honour. They are known to offer blood sacrifice to their dark mistress, and even steal the dreams of sleeping victims. Among her followers are master alchemists capable of concocting a potion known as Vaermina's Torpor, which allows the drinker to enter a state known as the Dream Stride, letting them enter the dreams of others and even physically travelling through them. Vaermina's realm of quagmire is among the most disturbing of all the planes of Oblivion. It is a realm where the laws of reality are not just broken, but rewritten entirely, where existence itself becomes a waking nightmare. In the Doors of Oblivion, one Daedrologist recalls the horror of this realm. Every few minutes, there was a flash of lightning, and reality shifted, always to something more horrible and horrifying. A dark castle one moment, a den of ravening beasts the next, a moonlit swamp, a coffin where he was buried alive. This is the essence of quagmire, an endless cycle of fear where there can be no sanctuary. From her fortress in the heart of the realm, Vaermina reaches out into Nirn and steals the dreams of sleeping mortals, leaving nothing behind but visions of horror and despair. If you've ever woken in the night, heart racing, drenched in sweat, it's possible that your mind has just escaped the clutches of Vaermina's realm. Vaermina's most iconic artifact is the Skull of Corruption, a powerful staff with the ability to create a clone of its target. It's also able to steal the dreams of mortals, and once plagued the whole city of Dawnstar with terrible nightmares. Another artifact, the Orb of Vaermina, is used for scrying distant places. It was once stolen by the wizard Arkved, who was cursed with eternal slumber, forced to endure nightmares for all eternity. It's a sobering reminder that those who cross Vaermina may quite literally see their nightmares come to life. And so, we've covered all 17 Daedric Princes. But wait, what is this? There's another Daedric Prince? If you haven't played the Elder Scrolls Online in the last few years, you might have missed the emergence of a new Daedric Prince, one who's been locked away and forgotten for millennia. Ithelia is known as the Prince of Paths, the Mistress of the Untravelled Road, and the Fate Changer. Her sphere encompasses destiny, fate, and the idea of the prisoner, that is, the archetype of the unbound hero. It is said that long ago she was worshipped by the ancient Aelids, who built temples in her honour. She had her own plane of oblivion, known as Miramor, which appeared as a vast desert beneath a purple sky, dotted with the remains of enormous skeletons. At some point in time, she was imprisoned by Hermaeus Mora, who considered her power to be a threat to the fabric of reality. Then, all knowledge of her was wiped from existence, effectively erasing her from history. Miramor was abandoned before being rediscovered and settled by mortals and Daedra alike, who founded the city of Fargrave, serving as a crossroads between the planes. But during the Second Era, Ithelia was freed and began to reclaim her lost power, even launching an invasion of Apocrypha. Yet eventually, she came to understand that her power was a threat to reality and agreed to enter exile, moving into a parallel world without the existence of magic, where her abilities could cause no harm. It is unknown what eventually became of Ithelia, or whether she will eventually return, but it's clear that she was among the most powerful of all the princes, even if that power was ultimately her undoing. With the return of Jyggalag and the revelation of Ithelia's existence, we must wonder, could there be other Daedric princes out there, hidden below the waters of Oblivion? If we consider the vastness of Oblivion, then the answer is almost certainly yes. Theoretically, there could be no upper limit on the number of princes, but unless they reveal themselves, it will be impossible to know for sure. Still, there is one other potential candidate who could be numbered among the princes. Or rather, candidates. The ideal masters are spirits who rule over the plane of Oblivion known as the Soul Cairn, a bleak realm filled with the trapped souls of the dead. Necromancers have been known to forge dark covenants with the ideal masters, sending them souls in exchange for power. It is said the ideal masters were an ancient order of sorcerers who transcended their physical forms, entering Oblivion to carve out their own realm. Could it be possible that somehow the ideal masters fused their souls to form a new entity, one that could be counted among the princes of Oblivion, with its sphere as that of necromancy? For now, it is just a theory, and one that remains unconfirmed, but one thing is obvious. The status of a Daedric prince is not immutable, and as we have seen with Malacath and Meridia, new ones can be created. After all, as Sheogorath once said, Daedra are the embodiment of change. And if they can be created, then perhaps they can also be destroyed. Now, after all we have discussed, there is still one question outstanding. If the Daedric princes chose to remain apart from the Mundus, why then do they interfere with the affairs of mortals? For each Daedric prince there will be a different answer. Some, such as Molag Bal, seek to claim the souls of mortals in pursuit of ever greater power. Others, such as Clavicus Vile, meddle in mortal lives just for the fun of it. And some princes, such as Hermaeus Mora and Mephala, have motives which remain unknown, and perhaps even unknowable to mortals. But there is a more unsettling explanation for the Daedric prince's interest in the mortal plane. It is a theory that is alluded to in the commentaries on the Mysterium Xarxes, and later expounded upon in Mankar Cameron's speech to the hero of Kvatch. He says, "How is it that mighty gods die, yet the Daedra stand incorruptible? How is it that the Daedra forthrightly proclaim themselves to man, while the gods cower behind statues and the faithless words of traitor priests? It is simple. They are not gods at all. The truth has been in front of you since first you were born. The Daedra are the true gods of this universe." He even goes as far to claim that Lorkhan was one of the Daedra, and that Nirn was his plane of oblivion. But was this a revelation about the nature of the universe, or just the ravings of a madman? For if there is any truth to this, then the Daedra stand as the ultimate gods of the Elder Scrolls universe, with Tamriel merely an arena for them to play out their schemes and rivalries. But such existential questions are best left for another day. Thank you for sticking around to the end, and please consider liking and subscribing to the channel so I can keep bringing you more Elder Scrolls videos. And if you really enjoyed it, you might be interested in becoming a channel member or Patreon patron. You'll get access to some extra lore reading videos, audio versions of all videos, as well as some extra behind the scenes stuff. Anyway, I think I've rambled on enough for today. So until next time, take care.